Well, I don't think I've ever said this about a Jurgen Klopp Liverpool team before, but I think what we witnessed tonight was complete complacency from Liverpool, ending in an utterly deserved defeat. They're now 3-0 down on aggregate to Atalanta after being battered really here at Anfield tonight. A shock defeat, the first defeat since February 2023, but you could almost excuse that one because it came against Real Madrid when Liverpool were in a really difficult moment. They came into this game as heavy favourites to kind of rack up a first leg victory and put themselves in a commanding position in the tie, but that is absolutely not what happened. Atalanta coming away with a huge victory that makes them massive favourites to go through to the semi-finals. It would take a miracle really in Bergamo to turn this tie around, and as I say, Liverpool really got what they deserved tonight in terms of the performance. I mean, that is shown up by the statistics I have in front of me here. Liverpool take 5 shots on target to Atalanta's 7, so they get beaten on shots on target. 3 big chances to Atalanta's 7 big chances. 1.84 on XG for Liverpool, 2.58 for Atalanta. So that gives you an idea that it wasn't just a smash and grab victory. Atalanta absolutely deserved it, and I think the most worrying aspect of all from Liverpool's perspective is the fact that this really came from being bullied all across the pitch in a way that we are kind of used to Jurgen Klopp's side doing to other teams. Atalanta came here, they looked physically great, they looked like they had pace, they looked stronger than Liverpool, they looked fitter at times, and kind of basically bullied them from minute one, as I say, and that made it really difficult. And the complacency I'm talking about, I think that came from minute one from Liverpool, from the selection that Jurgen Klopp picked, the team that he picked. He made 6 changes to his starting 11, and I actually made 6 changes to my starting 11 when I picked the team in a video, and I said all the way through that I didn't expect Jurgen Klopp to go down that route. I thought he would go with a stronger team, try and get it into a strong position in the tie, and then see what would happen then in the return leg in Bergamo. That's absolutely not what happened. He made 6 changes to his team, and he saw a disjointed performance in the first half. That Atalanta put themselves 1-0 up, and I think from that moment really that Klopp kind of panicked at half time. He brings 3 subs on at the break: Salah, Szoboszlai and Robertson, trying to sort of fix what he started in terms of his team selection. But by that point, I think Atalanta had been given some confidence in the game. They'd sort of seen that they could play well at Anfield, that they could win the physical duels all across the pitch, and they could break with pace, and that Liverpool, when they did that, couldn't live with them at all. And as I say, once Atalanta got that confidence, they were absolutely flying, and even the subs then from Jurgen Klopp couldn't really change things and turn things around for Liverpool, even though he absolutely desperately needed that to happen. And now the big question now is what happens in the second leg. Does Jurgen Klopp write this off as impossible, or does he try and push for one of those impossible European comebacks? Obviously we've seen a few of those under him, but they've all come at Anfield. It's a different matter to go to Bergamo and beat Atalanta. I know Liverpool were big favourites for this tie, but I think you've seen how dangerous in this first leg Atalanta can be, and I think it's going to be extremely difficult 3-0 down to turn this around, which means that the dream ending to Jurgen Klopp's reign as Liverpool manager would have been lifting the Europa League in Dublin, wouldn't he? But it doesn't look like there's going to be much chance of that happening off the basis of what we've seen tonight and the fact that it would take such a miracle to turn this around in Bergamo. Now, going to go through the players' performances, and let's be honest, not many pass marks in here. Some pretty poor performances really from Liverpool, and again, not something we've said a lot this season with things been going so well. And I start with Kevin Kelleher, and I thought the first goal, which obviously gives Atalanta a foothold in the game, I think he'll look back at that one and be disappointed with the way that the ball squirms under him. I mean, it's firmly hit by Scamacca, but the way Kelleher's been playing recently, you'd expect him to get a strong hand to that and keep it out. And I thought equally disappointed around the third one. It's a strike where Liverpool have got men back, the covering off, and it's not a powerful strike by any means, but he spills it in front and then creates a simple tap-in for Pasalic to sweep home. And again, so the fact that the goalkeeper's disappointed around 2 goals says to me that he's not had a particularly good game. I thought some of his passing was too long as well at times. He was going long and Liverpool were losing the ball. He was usually so calm with his feet. So a really disappointing performance from Kelleher, and he's been so good this season when he's come in, hasn't he? But the fact that Alisson is so close to coming back now, that looks like good timing really, because that's Kelleher, you'd have to say, probably his worst performance that he's put in since he's been in as the backup this season. So a poor time to put it in as well in a European quarter-final. It's left Liverpool in a really difficult position. Now move on to Joe Gomez, who again equally didn't think he had a particularly strong game tonight, to be honest. I thought he struggled really with Atalanta's physicality, the pace he showed down his side. He always seemed to be to be getting beat out to the ball, and that kind of shows in his statistics as well. He wins 1 out of 5 of his ground duels, only completes 79% of his passes. Again, he's usually so safe with that, isn't he? But Atalanta were pressing him, couldn't win his duels, couldn't win his battles, and that was just constantly giving them encouragement down his side. Only creates 1 chance as well. He's usually better in the creative aspects of the game in the final third. And he took on a couple of shots as well. One of them particularly, I saw Jurgen Klopp's right down in front of me here in the press box, and he was absolutely enraged by it. He took a shot on from such distance out, completely let Atalanta off the hook. And again, he's not the only person who played poorly here. You'll see from the rest of my ratings, really, that he's not the only one. But I thought Gomez was a little bit of a problem for Liverpool today. Now, similarly with Konate in terms of, I thought he made an encouraging start to the game. He knocked a couple of balls in behind that really turned Atalanta around. He seemed to be winning his duels early on, but he kind of went downhill from there, and because there wasn't a lot going on in terms of protection in front of him, he seemed to get exposed time and time again. I mean, he wins 4 out of 8 of his aerial duels, and we are so used to him being dominant in that. I think that says a lot about how good Atalanta were winning those sort of physical battles. It wasn't just centre forward up against centre back. It happened all across the pitch, and that really set the tone. And as I say, 4 out of 8 aerial duels won. That is unheard of, really, from Ibrahima Konate. He does win 6 out of 9 of his ground duels, but again, the damage was being done in the air, and Atalanta getting a foothold in that way by getting up the pitch like that. Only completes 83% of his passes as well. Another one who was completely pressed out of it. The aggression that Atalanta showed in the game was absolutely set the tone for them. It's a big reason why they won this game, and Konate absolutely suffered with that. 83%, that is very, very low for him. He's usually very safe with the ball. Now, similarly alongside him, Van Dijk, he does actually win his aerial duels. 4 out of 5 aerial duels won. Not many centre forwards in world football beat him to an aerial ball, to be fair, so he did keep that up, and win 6 out of 7 of his duels overall. But again, a lot of the problem was they're pulling onto Konate constantly. They try and stay away from Van Dijk, and I thought, in terms of the way he organises the defence, he'd be really disappointed with the fact they've come away with a 3-0 defeat and given up the chances they've given up today. Didn't seem to be able to organise it and sort things out in the way that he usually does, and I think that he is the man. I have to see it back. Didn't have our screens working, unfortunately, here in this section of the press box, but it looked like he was the man who was keeping Pasalic on side for that the last goal as well. And I think the way he puts his head in his hands straight after suggests that he didn't keep that line and push out in the way that he should have, so he'd be really disappointed with that. Maybe a pass mark for Van Dijk, but one of very few in this team tonight. And Kostas Tsimikas sort of rounds out the defence. To be honest, I kind of thought he was doing okay. I didn't think he was a huge issue in that first half that Liverpool had to solve, lacking a little bit of rhythm because he hadn't started for a while, no doubt about that. But he wins 3 out of 5 ground duels, which is okay. I think what will have annoyed Klopp the most is the fact that he pushes out for a press around the first goal, and Atalanta have a simple pass down the side that gives Zappacosta the freedom of Anfield to swing the ball in for Scamacca. So, maybe that moment alone annoyed the manager, but it wasn't like to me that Tsimikas was playing horrendously poorly and needed to be dragged off. But maybe it was a thought that let's get more rhythm on the pitch, let's just try and get back to our normal selves. Not necessarily a reflection that Tsimikas was a complete disaster, but obviously he wasn't playing unbelievably well either. It's true of basically all the players, isn't it? So moving to midfield now, and I thought this was the area where Liverpool really lost the game. Just didn't win enough duels there. I mean, again, I thought McAllister actually did well in that regard, wins 5 out of 10. He was always buzzing around the Atalanta players and he looked the best, sort of most capable in terms of dealing with the physicality that they were showing, but it still wasn't perfect because on the other side of the ball, when he was, he's Liverpool's creative talisman this season, or particularly in this part of the season, he's emerged as that, but just couldn't get going in that regard today. 1 shot, 0 chances created. I mean, they are poor numbers for McAllister when you look at the way he's been playing recently, and I think he wasn't helped by what was happening around and behind him. But he's usually so much calmer on the ball and usually does a lot more with it, doesn't he? But again, he was getting the life breath out of him, as was every Liverpool player, and that panic set in, and he just couldn't play the passes, the little passes through the lines, or pick up those pockets of space. And McAllister was a victim of that as much as anyone else. So not his greatest performance for Liverpool, that's for sure. And I could say similar about Wataru Endo. I said I didn't really think he was fantastic at Old Trafford, and I thought a poor performance tonight. He, as much as anyone, suffered with the physicality and the pressing that Atalanta were showing. I mean, 1 out of 4 ground duels, he's usually so much better than that. 85% passing accuracy is usually higher than that as well in games that Liverpool dominate. he as much as anyone looked panicky on the ball at times. He looked like he just wanted to get rid of it, and Atalanta were closing him down. I think they maybe spotted that he can be a weak spot on the ball at times. If you really press him, he doesn't have the range to dink it. He's more wants the short passes. So I think they sort of spotted that and closed him down really, really aggressively. And that seemed to hurt him. I thought his performance on both sides of the ball, didn't win enough duels, didn't use the ball well enough, and it created that gap in front of the defence, and that was a problem that Atalanta kept exploiting. That they kept getting turnovers, and Liverpool just couldn't cope. And I thought Curtis Jones similarly, he's lacking a bit of rhythm at the moment, isn't he? I thought this would be a good opportunity to use him and get that back into him, but unfortunately Atalanta was so aggressive he couldn't get going. 1 out of 5 ground duels won. I mean, the one thing I would defend from his performance is a 92% passing accuracy, so he was using the ball a little bit more calmly than the people around him, certainly Endo and even McAllister at times, but he wasn't winning his duels, and that was constantly giving encouragement to Atalanta. As I said, he does create one chance as well, so I mean there's a balance to be asked about whether Jones desperately needed to be dragged off, similar to Tsimikas, because I don't think the men who replaced him, or certainly in Jones's case, actually changed things at all. Maybe Jones could have found his way into that match and been told at half time where he could improve in terms of winning his duels, because he was using the ball fairly well as well, and Liverpool obviously weren't very good at all in the second half, so maybe a bit of unfair scapegoating from the manager there, but absolutely didn't think he got that right. And I'll move into the forwards now, and I'll start on the right hand side with Harvey Elliott. And I said in my video selecting the team for this that I absolutely wanted Harvey Elliott to start. I thought he deserved it, but I didn't want him to start in that right wing position. I don't think he's a good replacement for Salah. I want him in central midfield where he can use the ball and move it around and move teams around in the formation. And he has Liverpool's best opportunity in the first half when he hits the post and the bar with a curler from just inside the box, and does create one chance as well, so not terrible from him, but his lack of pace and his lack of physicality against this massive Atalanta team, he really did seem to struggle with that, and so not quite as effective as he would have liked to have been. And also I probably, like I say, would have maybe liked seeing him a little bit more in central midfield. Maybe he would have found it easier to pick up spaces between the lines than he did in the position he was in, where it seemed to be balls knocked over the top, and he's not electric in terms of his pace, is he? So just didn't really seem to suit him. And as I say, not a disgrace in terms of he goes as close as any Liverpool player to scoring a goal tonight, but it just didn't work for him in that position, and I can understand why he was brought off. Now, alongside him in attack, Darwin Núñez, I think I'm a little bit worried about the fact that I didn't think he played well at Old Trafford. I thought even though he sets the goal up, I think we saw some elements of the worst elements of Núñez at times in that game, and absolutely today kind of confirmed it to me that some of those bad habits are coming back. He missed chances in this game, some big chances in big moments where Liverpool, could have drawn level or even gone ahead with one of the chances he has early on. Just behind me, he tries to dink the ball and completely miscues. And it's a simple chance really as well for a striker of his quality, in terms of if he opens his body, the keeper thinks he goes to that side and he can either hit it or drag it round the keeper, and he's got an open net, but he just lacked the composure in that moment. Tries this little dink and it just didn't come off for him, so I thought a really disappointing performance from him. He does get 4 shots, he always generates shots, doesn't he? But just that lack of composure really hurting Liverpool at the moment. They need him to get that back in his game, because when he gets on those streaks of scoring goals, he's massively important with everything else he provides to the team, but really, really poor from him today, and a disappointment there. And I thought the man alongside him, Cody Gakpo, was actually one of Liverpool's bright spots. I know he's had a lot of criticism recently and he doesn't score a goal here, but I actually thought a lot to like about his performance today. 5 chances created, 5 out of 6 dribbles completed, and 11 out of 15 ground duels won as well. So he's working hard. I thought he was finding space for himself, and as I say, with those dribbles were working out. He's moving the ball into dangerous positions for others, and creating a lot of chances with it as well. It's just unfortunate that those chances weren't being taken, or there was a couple of moments in the first half where he could have fed Elliott and the ball just wasn't on, and he forced it a little bit and hit the ball a little bit hard, and Elliott couldn't get onto the end of it. But it was some of his moments where he was sort of shaking off Atalanta players. He was the best in terms of doing that, and he seemed to understand more than anybody else that if you kind of beat that first Atalanta press, the whole game opens up for you. But unfortunately none of his other teammates were really doing it or were brave enough to do it. So I thought, as I say, Gakpo, I thought a decent performance from him, the bright spot for me actually out of a really, really forgettable evening for Liverpool. Now we'll talk about the subs, because they did play a lot of minutes Robertson. I thought Salah and Diaz quite ineffective really. Salah has a decent chance. He has 3 shots, 2 of those, one is blocked and one is saved in quick succession. He would have wished he'd done better than that. He gets a goal chalked off for offside, which again probably could have held his line a little bit better. And I thought he and Diaz both really kind of ineffective, didn't really massively change or move the dial for Liverpool in an attacking sense, which, you know, with the quality of substitutes they were bringing on there, you would have hoped that would have happened, but it just didn't really happen for either of them, which is kind of disappointing. Andy Robertson did come on at half time, and I thought I thought the Scamacca sub wasn't absolutely desperately needed, but I thought Robertson did add a bit of purpose down that left hand side. 3 chances created, 92% passing accuracy, so he was being dangerous with the ball, and also actually keeping it as well and stopping Atalanta getting those chances to break. So I thought he did decent when he came on, but obviously couldn't turn the tide for Liverpool. Talk about Dominic Szoboszlai. You know, I mentioned about the Jones substitution and whether that was absolutely necessary, and I would say probably not on the basis of what Szoboszlai did. So Jones, the thing you could criticise him for was winning 1 out of 5 of his ground duels, but Szoboszlai comes on and wins 0 out of 4. He just got bullied in the centre of the park in the way that you know, so many did in this Liverpool team today. So didn't change things for Liverpool in midfield at all. So didn't quite get that substitution, and he makes the error for the goal for 3-0. He gives the ball away really cheaply. Liverpool can't get back in. And then it's basically the tie is all but over as a result of that goal. So really disappointing performance from Szoboszlai. And I thought Jota was, again, maybe one of the slight bright spots. He looked really dangerous when he came on. He beat his man and created a chance as soon as he got on the ball the first time, and had a couple of moments where the ball had fell a bit more nicely. He would have got a shot on target. 1 shot, 1 chance created. So I thought he did okay when he came on. And he's, you know, Liverpool need him to be a big boost coming back now, because, you know, they've had a couple of results back to back that have real potential to wreck the season. Obviously the Premier League title race they're no longer in control of, and here it was going to take a miracle in the Europa League really to turn things around, isn't it? So extremely disappointed. So that completes my review of the match and the players' performances. Let me know in the comments what you think. How disastrous is this result for Liverpool? Can they turn things around? And, you know, you're worried that this season is going to fizzle out a little bit, because these 2 results back to back are extremely worrying, aren't they? Really, you have to admit that. Let me know what you think in the comments, and drop me a like and a subscribe as well. Hopefully there are better days ahead and a better finish to this season ahead for Liverpool, and the best way to keep track of that is to subscribe and keep track of it all. Of course, I'll be back next with build up to Crystal Palace and back here for the match review as well. So lots to look forward to, and hopefully, as I say, better performances to come and better days for Liverpool, because this is a bit of a disaster tonight.